Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Tiffany, a retired librarian turned homeschool mom. And in this video, we're going to be talking about this thing. So, this is Ben Franklin's Bones. This is an episode of a PBS series called Secrets of the Dead. So, this is kind of an interesting story. So, back several years ago, I can't remember exactly the year, the house that Ben Franklin lived in London during his time there in I think it was the mid 1700s, when he was doing a couple of things. He was there almost as a diplomat for Pennsylvania, I think Georgia, and New Jersey. So these were the colonies back then. He was trying to be their voice in Parliament. So he was very much acting as a diplomat, politicking quite a bit, trying to be the voice of the colonies in London and try to get their issues heard to prevent what eventually he realized they couldn't, the American Revolution. So, but what this happens is you have this group of people who they're trying to turn this house that he lived in with this woman by the name of, I believe it's Margaret Stevenson, and her daughter Polly, into a museum of Franklin. And they're contractors down in the basement, and they find a bunch of bones, human bones. So first they call in the police, and then they call in the coroner. The coroner, they look at the bones, and eventually realize these are old, like back Ben Franklin time old. So then they contact a physical anthropologist. It's like, okay, whoever did these, because these bones have been cut up. Obviously some sort of grisly thing was going on here, but it happened over 100 years ago. So whoever did it, it's long dead. So they bring in the anthropologist, who goes in there and digs up more of the bones. He also finds some animal bones, some exotic animal bones, specifically a turtle. And it's like, okay, what the heck was going on here? These things did date to the mid 1700s. So it's like, okay, what the heck was Franklin doing at this time? He was renting about 4 rooms, so he integrated into this family, because his wife and his daughter Sally stayed back in Pennsylvania, because his wife did not want to travel across to London, because you don't. It wouldn't have been nice. It would have been very, very scary. It's wooden boats. It's the 1700s. It's like, why the heck would I go back to the motherland? We left it for a reason. So, and her daughter stayed with him. It didn't actually talk about, I don't know if his son was with him at this time. I'm pretty sure he was, though it doesn't really talk much about the son. And this, maybe his son was staying somewhere else, because his son ended up having an affair and having an extramarital child. But that's a different conversation with Franklin. But why he was there, besides politicking, which is what he was doing during the day, at night he was studying sciences, because that's what, of course, Ben Franklin was into. He was messing around with electricity. He was doing a wide variety of things. But was he messing around with autopsy? No. They looked at some of the letters, and they realized that Polly, the daughter, when she was away visiting friends, met and fell in love with a young medical student. And they got married. And he was apprenticed in London to people who were autonomous. Basically, they were doing autopsies. Now, this was back in the age of enlightenment. So, body snatchers. This was the age where, unless it was a hung criminal, you're not getting a hold of a body. Everybody was terrified, because it was very much the religious belief at the time of the second coming, and you wanted to have all your pieces. So, you didn't want to be cut up. Even prisoners didn't want to be cut up. It was gruesome, and everybody was afraid of, not having their body parts. So, this is definitely the age of the grave robbers and the body snatchers, where they are getting fresh corpses. So this young gentleman worked with some other people who were creating various specimens. They still have. That's what he was doing. He was creating medical specimens to be studied at these people's anatomy school. Well, eventually there was a falling out, and he moved in with Franklin and his mother-in-law and Polly. They got married. They had a couple of kids. He started his own anatomy school. So, and at one point in time, he was obsessed with the lymphatic system, particularly the blood as well. He actually proved that the shape of red blood cells, that they were kind of this donut shaped, and he did a whole experiment on this with his lymphates. I'm mispronouncing things. Your lymph nodes, basically these things you find back here and under your armpits, those things that swell if you had the Black Death, and proved that they exist. And he proved that they exist in animals. So he did this, used mercury on this dead sea turtle, and they found the dead sea turtle in this pit. So this is with the mercury along with it. So that really is like, so this is documented. This is what he did. We have this in books, and here's the turtle and the mercury in the ground below this house. So he was running an anatomy school in the basement and kind of in the back area. So he was getting bodies. And what did end up happening to him was he cut himself when he was autopsying. He got essentially blood poisoning, got his corpse, and they're disgusting. Well, they're covered in bacteria, natural bacteria, but again, you don't want to be interacting with their blood when you're the living, particularly in the 1700s when we don't have antibiotics and we don't understand germs yet. And of course, he wasn't using gloves because you didn't back then, because they didn't know. So he ended up dying. Polly was pregnant. They had 2 kids. Right around this time, of course, this hurt Ben Franklin. Ben Franklin was very close to him. It was acknowledged that he would have known what was going on and been aware that they were stolen bodies. But again, he was trying to further science, which was really what Franklin was interested in furthering science. And this is the Age of Enlightenment, and you're part of some of these royal societies here, which Franklin was, as was this young man. In fact, she, along with a few other, vouched for him to be part of this, and they have the records of them all signing into this part of this very specific royal British society of great thinkers and people like Newton and various other scientists that I can't think of name them. This is a very good documentary. But right around the same time this guy died, Franklin was coming to the realization the British were never going to take them seriously. It wasn't going to happen. They saw him as a joke, no matter what he did. So he's been there for like 16 years. So he was going to go home because he realized, yeah, this ain't going to happen. And hanging around here as much as I don't want to leave this family, because he'd become very close. It's debated whether or not he had an affair with Margaret Stevenson. He was at her daughter's wedding. He walked her down the aisle and signed as a witness to their marriage. So he was very, very close. Polly had just been widowed. But he has to go. So he goes home, obviously as part of the American Revolution. Eventually, when Polly's mother dies, he's in contact with her, probably not making his daughter happy. But he invites her. It's like, get your kids and come to Philadelphia and come live near me, which is what she did. So she took her children and went to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and that is where her family remains. And you still have descendants who are in the medical field, which is kind of interesting, because Franklin encouraged Polly's oldest son to take up his father's profession and become a doctor, and he was a renowned physician. Cat in my lap here. And you have this young woman who's talking, this redheaded young woman. It's like, this is my family. This is my family lineage. We trace our family tree back to this gentleman and Polly. So that we're friends with Benjamin Franklin. So Benjamin Franklin is very dear to their family because it was him who brought them to the United States. So it was him who encouraged their ancestor Polly to bring her children and come live near him, probably so he could look after them. He was now a cranky old man. And I'm sure his wife was not particularly happy about this. Now, neither was his daughter, Sally, who adored him. Don't know what about his grandson. Yes, he had a grandson, illegitimate, along with his, illegitimate son, who, that's a whole other issue mentioned in the children's book, oddly enough, how he had issues with his father. The father-son issue was a problem. But again, it's a very, very interesting documentary if you're wanting to look at some of the history of Benjamin Franklin, and specifically this time he spent in London. If you're traveling and you're planning to visit, this is Craven House. It's a museum dedicated to Benjamin Franklin. They do talk about the bones. They do talk about a little bit of what happened because they found it in the basement where they're talking about the bones. So it's a good film, documentary. I don't know how long this is. It's not too long. I have it up here. It's about 58 minutes. So again, not too long. Age range depends. Again, they're talking about some gruesome stuff. They're talking about body snatching and dissections. So if your kids are squeamish, probably not the best thing. Age range, I'm gonna go with maybe mid-elementary-ish, so 5th grade, just because I don't think they'll get much out of it if they're a bit younger than that. My niece is about 10. She might find this interesting. I don't know. I have a nephew who's about to turn 7 this coming fall, so by the time you see this, he'll be in fact 7. In fact, my niece will be closing on 11. But by the time you guys see this, this is being filmed in March of 2022. You guys will see this in 2023 because that's the way I roll sometimes. Films get shot when they need to be. So, but yeah, that's going to be my 7-year-old nephew might be able to get something out of it. He's 6 right now. He might be able to get something out of it, but I'm not quite sure. That would be the youngest I would go with this. But it's a great, particularly any other age older than that, even high schoolers. I found this really enjoyable. It's very, very interesting when you're looking at Benjamin Franklin, when you're looking at the science of anatomy and dissection and the Age of Enlightenment. So it's very, very interesting. And again, if you're doing a unit on Ben Franklin, this is a good thing to look at. This is one of those things that I would love to show my daughter when she's older, just because it makes him human. He wasn't perfect. He was aware that there was body snatching going on in the house he was staying at, and that this young man that he admired and had mentored a little bit was involved in this. So, and kind of his interesting relationship with this woman and her daughter. And of course, how that extended to the fact that he invited her, the young daughter, as a widow, to live near him in Pennsylvania. So it's an interesting look at Benjamin Franklin and this time period. So that's really it for this video. If you like what you see, be sure to like and subscribe. Leave a positive comment if you have one. I do stuff like this. I do sometimes I review YouTube stuff just because I'm looking for educational stuff. I do fun videos on various fun films. I do lots and lots of books. I've done, to counterbalance this thing, I'm doing a children's chapter book called Benjamin Franklin's in My Bathroom, which is actually very, very interesting and kind of historical. So it's a good book to read. Check out the review of that one. That would have come out the Monday this comes out. I balance them back and forth. My film reviews and video reviews are on Fridays. My book reviews are on Mondays. That's consistent. And I have a good, by the time you guys see this, I will have a good backlog. So you can be sure to check that out. I do younger stuff, I do older stuff. So I do a wide range of educational stuff. We are secular homeschoolers. So I also, on Wednesdays, will have some of the travel stuff. I'll throw in some curriculum stuff as we come. My daughter is just over 2.5 as of this shooting. By the time you guys see this, she'll be just over 3.5. So we're going there. I'll also probably do some board games, educational stuff as well, as we get there. I want to work with it with my daughter to see how she experiences these things before I can give an honest review. And again, we also do travel videos. By the time you guys see this, I should have at least 4. One, hopefully more. We're hoping to do a little bit more traveling. We currently, as of this video, we're visiting family in Idaho again. That will be our second trip because my husband has family in Idaho. So we go up there, and I have a video on traveling with a 1 to 2-year-old. And then I'll have a video by the time you guys see this with traveling with a 3-year-old and how that works and kind of what we're learning when it comes to the traveling and some of my research and stuff. So those are available along with various things, museums, zoos, aquariums, stuff that we visit and that we utilize in our own state, of course, and wherever we travel. So there's a lot coming. There's already a lot available. So again, like and subscribe and check out what I got. Thank you.